For months, maybe years, you've heard the same story. Ukraine is exhausted. Russia is advancing. The war is stalemated. Nothing is changing. That's the narrative. But then the battlefield footage started leaking out. Not polished press releases, not studio panels, raw drone feeds, trench-level recordings, surrender videos, abandoned armor columns. And suddenly, the narrative didn't match reality. Because what that footage shows is not a frozen conflict. It shows something breaking. And tonight, we're going to walk through why the Western media narrative is starting to collapse and what the battlefield is actually telling us. For over a year now, the dominant storyline across major outlets has been clear. This war is grinding. Both sides are stuck. Ukraine can't push. Russia can't win decisively. It's a war of attrition. That framing matters, because when a war is labeled a stalemate, it changes public perception. It suggests inevitability, it implies exhaustion, it prepares audiences for compromise, but stalemate implies symmetry. And the footage from the front line tells a very different story. Let's start with drones. Modern war is filmed from above. Every assault, every retreat, every supply route. Thousands of hours of drone footage have emerged over the past several months. And what they consistently show is not balanced attrition. They show Russian mechanized columns being intercepted before they reach contact lines. They show infantry moving across open ground without adequate cover. They show repeated vehicle losses in the same sectors, over and over again. And most importantly, they show adaptation on one side and repetition on the other. That's not a stalemate, that's asymmetric learning. Western headlines often describe Russia as slowly grinding forward, but the footage complicates that claim. Yes, Russia has captured territory in certain sectors, but at what cost? Video evidence shows armored vehicles abandoned after minimal resistance, units retreating under drone-guided artillery, newly mobilized soldiers surrendering within days of deployment. If you only follow maps, you see colored lines shifting slightly. If you follow footage, you see units degrading. That distinction matters. Because territory gained at extreme personnel and equipment cost is not strategic momentum, it's burn rate. One of the most underreported developments has been the steady stream of surrender footage. Small groups emerging from tree lines, hands raised, directed by drones overhead. You don't see mass propaganda pushes around these clips. You don't see primetime breakdowns, but you do see a pattern. Many of these captured soldiers are recent mobilizations. Some lack basic coordination. Others appear disconnected from command structures. And when surrender becomes normalized, even quietly, it signals strain beneath the surface. Armies don't fracture loudly at first. They fracture gradually. Another narrative repeated constantly is that Russia's size guarantees sustainability. That may have been true early in the war, but the footage shows something else now. Older tanks pulled from storage, infantry riding on top of armor instead of inside, improvised protection welded onto vehicles. Those are not signs of industrial dominance, they're signs of adaptation under pressure. And here's the key point. You don't retrofit Cold War equipment if your modern pipeline is running smoothly. You do it when replacement cycles can't keep up with losses. So why does the media narrative lag behind battlefield reality? Because information moves in layers. Official statements, think tank reports, satellite imagery, then raw frontline video. But in this war, frontline video is faster than formal analysis. Telegram channels, open source analysts, independent OSINT communities. They're processing events within hours, not weeks. And that speed is exposing gaps. When a column is destroyed on Monday but framed as incremental gains on Friday, audiences notice. When drone footage contradicts confident studio commentary, credibility erodes. Not instantly, but steadily. Narratives don't collapse in one headline. They erode through contradiction. First, analysts hedge their language. Then they acknowledge unexpected resistance. Then they reference unsustainable loss rates. And slowly, the framing shifts. We're already seeing that shift. Words like fragile, Strained and overextended are appearing more frequently in discussions of Russian operations. That didn't happen by accident. It happened because visual evidence became too consistent to ignore. This isn't about cheering one side, it's about understanding momentum. Wars are not decided by daily map movements, they're decided by sustainability, training pipelines, industrial capacity, morale, command cohesion, and the footage emerging from the front lines raises serious questions about long-term sustainability on Russia's side. If units are rotating faster than they can train, if equipment is being restored from decades-old storage, if surrender rates are quietly increasing, then the story is not stalemate, it's pressure accumulation. Here's the deeper shift most people are missing. Ukraine has adapted around drone warfare and decentralized strikes. Russia continues to rely heavily on massed assaults in contested sectors. One side is leaning into technological asymmetry, the other is leaning into volume. History tells us something important about that dynamic. Volume works until it doesn't, until loss rates exceed replacement capacity, until morale dips below operational confidence, until small fractures become structural ones, and the footage suggests we may be approaching that inflection point. So, no, the war is not simple. Yes, Russia continues to fight hard. Yes, territory is still contested. But the idea that nothing is changing, that this is frozen, that momentum is evenly distributed. The battlefield footage says otherwise. It shows strain, it shows adaptation on one side, it shows repetition on the other, and when narratives drift too far from reality, they don't survive contact, they collapse. The question now isn't whether the narrative shifts, it's how long institutions can maintain it before the evidence becomes undeniable, and that's something we'll be watching very closely.